Qatar. How Qatar uses money to influence various global bodies to get its way. That is the topic today. Remember, I have already done one video about how close to 6,700 people died while constructing the various stadia in Qatar when they hosted the World Cup soccer. Well, there is a new development here and you'll be stunned to know what is happening. Now, you have to remember that soccer, just like cricket is played only in some English-speaking countries, soccer is also played predominantly in Europe, a little bit in Middle East and in Latin America. Other countries, you don't see much happening. For example, India, it is there, but it's not at a level where you would see people, fighting for club tickets and so on and so forth. So what is QatarGate scandal? A scandal that has rocked the European Parliament. On December 9th, that is a few days ago, there were a lot of arrests made. I'm going to talk to you all about this because this connects back with my video on how many Indians, Nepalis, Chinese, Pakistanis, Bangladeshis died while building the various stadia for Qatar in 52 degrees centigrade heat. So this is now finally getting heard in a European Parliament, and how the Qatari government tried to bribe its way out of a lot of its responsibilities and its commissions, and how they tried to somehow bribe a few people to browbeat them into looking the other way so that EU would not censor them. A lot of stuff. I mean, really, really sad, guys. When you see this thing, your blood will boil. But at the same time, most important thing I want to point out here is Qatar thinks that they can get away literally with murder by paying up. Let's see what happened. Qatar's population is close to 3 million, but when in 2010 it had a huge rise because they started building for the 2022 Soccer World Cup that was going to be hosted, because they had to build a lot of things, and I'll come and tell you, I'll tell you how many things they built just to host this thing. It's a different matter that the games ended and there were a lot of controversies. There was a reporter who said some adverse things about Rainbow Coalition, and then 2 days later he mysteriously died. Nothing has happened so far. This guy, I think, was an American national, and US hasn't really probed it. So this is all indications to you that Qatar is capable of doing anything. So there were 6,750 deaths in Qatar since 2010 when work began. So of these 6,750 deaths, South Asian migrants have the highest numbers. India lost 2,711, Nepal 1,641, Bangladesh 1,018, Pakistan 824, and Sri Lanka 557. 37 deaths among workers directly linked to construction of World Cup stadiums, of which 34 are said as non-work related. See, this is all like they are just pulling wool over their acts of omission. I mean, people said that even basic water was not made available. And so people died of dehydration. You're not talking about 50-year-old, 60-year-old people. We're talking about able-bodied people between the ages of 18 and 35. And look at the way these things were reported and stashed away. 80% of Indian migrant workers in Qatar reportedly died natural deaths. Can you believe that? Between 18 and 35, you die of a natural cause? So this is the kind of wool that Qatar was trying to pull over the eyes of many. What was being built in Qatar? 7 new stadia, a brand new airport, a brand new city, and dozens of hotels. Now, this is the backdrop. This is what Qatar did, and they had to explain this in front of the European Union Parliament. Now enter the two main characters in this episode. 𝗤𝘂𝘁𝘆, a Greek politician, and Francesco Giorgi, a former parliamentary assistant and domestic partner of 𝗤𝘂𝘁𝘆. There was a typo there, it's 𝘁𝘁𝘆. Both have a daughter that was born in 2021. Who is 𝗤𝘂𝘁𝘆? She is the Vice President of the European Parliament as of 2022. She has been elected member of the European Parliament with the progressive alliance of socialists and Democrats since 2014. She was a TV broadcaster before that, and then, that's how she had her public face, and then she got into politics. You have a lot of people like this. Ricki Lake, for example, in the United States, and the wife of Ron DeSantis was also a TV personality. So this is not uncommon. Okay, let's put it that way. Okay. Now, as Qatar prepared for its hosting of the 2022 FIFA World Cup, they served as the Gulf states' fiercest advocates, that is, Eva and Francesco. Gulf states' fiercest advocates in Brussels, defending human rights and defending migrant worker treatment. Remember, I told you 6,750 deaths. By the time the Guardian had done an article, and many other newspapers in Europe were reporting the atrocities. Strangely, India was very silent. Indian media never talked about it, except, of course, PGurus. Greek lawmaker 𝗣𝗂𝗍𝗍, who was then a vice president of the European Parliament, had ramped up her efforts and had flown back and forth to Doha and spent hours pleading and cajoling fellow lawmakers in EU to give Qatar a clean bill of health on human rights. Several times she asked for advice from her domestic partner 𝗤𝗎𝗍, according to police transcripts of her WhatsApp messages. The police captured 𝗤𝗎𝗍 3 days before the hearing, poring over the text with his boss, a former EU lawmaker, Pier Antonio Panzeri. This is an Italian guy, and so is Francesco, who would later be portrayed as the mastermind of QatarGate, a sweeping cash for influence scheme. Now, what had to happen was somebody from Qatar, their labor minister, had to appear in person in front of the EU Parliament and make a case for why Qatar has been doing its best to try and make sure that the people who are working in the various construction projects were treated humanely. This is the whole thing. They wanted to make it look like these were natural deaths. Except when a person between the ages of 18 to 35 dies, it can never be a natural death. So you can imagine the kind of conditions these people worked under, 52 degrees to 56 degrees in open sun, broad daylight. And I have no doubt in my mind that many of these things were due to dehydration. I mean, the video is there. You can go back in PGurus and look at Qatar or soccer. If you search on either one of those two keywords, you will find the video and you can take a look at it. That came about a year ago. Now, despite reports of the deaths of migrant workers, 𝗣𝗍𝗍 actively defended Qatar's human rights record and praised its labor and social reforms initiatives while building the FIFA World Cup infrastructure. The EU's criticism of Doha's human rights policy, Doha is the capital of Qatar, was criticized by 𝗣𝗍𝗍, and she also tried to get policymakers to make it easier for Qatari citizens to get visas to come to Europe. Less than a week before the high-profile soccer tournament was to kick off, this was last year, it was all coming to a head. At a crucial hearing in the European Parliament, Qatar's Labour Minister Ali bin Samiq Al-Mari, also known as the Doctor, would come in person to plead his case before the Chamber's Human Rights Committee. I have given you 3 or 4 links in the reference section and document in the description, and you can take a look at it to read it. It's a long read, but I'm trying to capture the essence of what happened here. Italian-speaking Panzeri wrote the speech in his native language, that is Italian, and handed it off to Francesco 𝗤𝗎𝗍𝗍 for translation, and then 𝗤𝗎𝗍 and 𝗣𝗍𝗍𝗍 huddled with Al-Mari in his suite in this 5-star Steigenberger Wiltshires hotel, and went over it and made sure that the minister would deliver his speech. Interestingly, the minister delivered his speech in Arabic. So I don't know whether the intonation, the nuancing was done right or not. But anyway, I just wanted to put that thought also. Were they successful? Well, sort of. They did get some things waived. But the most important thing is that 𝗤𝗎𝗍 and Panzeri were under surveillance by Belgian secret services for months, suspected of taking part in a sweeping cash for influence scheme under which Qatar paid to obtain specific legislative outcomes. Their communications, including with 𝗣𝗖𝘋 and other suspects, would be scooped up as part of the wiretaps and the subsequent investigations. What is the net worth of the couple, 𝗣𝗖𝘋 and 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪? Two apartments in Athens at 400,000 euros each. One in Brussels estimated at $160,000. Euros. 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 purchased another $145,000 flat in Brussels. Eva purchased a flat near Parliament for 375,000 euros in 2019, a plot of land on the Greek island of Paros for 300,000 euros in 2021, a second apartment, a penthouse right next to the Parliament worth 650,000 euros in 2022. Apart from this, a Land Rover was bought for 56,000 euros. Joint real estate purchases totaling over 1.3 million. Now, 2 days ago, right? Today is 11th. December 9th, the trap slammed shut. 𝗣𝗖𝘋, 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪, Panzeri and a couple of other suspects are arrested and thrown in jail on charges of corruption, money laundering and participating in a criminal conspiracy. Two other members of the European Parliament, Mark Tarabella and Andrea Cozzolino, would also be arrested and charged. So here are the dramatis personae. These are all the people who are involved in this. And police published photographs of bags stuffed full of hundreds of thousands of euros which they had received in Panzeri's flat at 𝗣𝗖𝘋 and 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪's home and in a suitcase wheeled by 𝗣𝗖𝘋's father, instantly turning their probe into a page 1 news story for outlets outside the continent. In fact, this main story appeared in Politico magazine, from where I am taking this extract and publishing it here. It's a much bigger article, but it gives you the gist of what happened. 𝗣𝗖𝘋 denied any wrongdoing, and it says that she says that I have nothing to do with this. She maintains her defense of Qatar was part of her job as a representative of the EU and that the investigation into her actions breached the parliamentary immunity enjoyed by sitting MEP. Now, there is no other evidence in the hundreds of pages of wiretapping by Secret Service that indicate 𝗣𝗖𝘋 directly received money from Qatar or other countries. 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 has provided details of the operation to police, but his lawyer argued that his statements were extracted under duress. So interestingly, when they put them in jail, both 𝙤𝙧𝙤𝙪 and the other guy, his boss, Panzeri, were in the same cell. So now what the 𝗣𝗂𝗪's lawyers are saying is that, well, they may have colluded to give the same kind of a testimony that is seeming to implicate 𝗣𝗂𝗪. But she can't shake off the fact that her father was caught with a suitcase full of euros because he was asked to go someplace and she was going to meet up with him at there, but before that she got arrested. So lots of twists and turns. This is now becoming a page 1 news story, and I just wanted all of us to know that this is what Qatar is capable of doing. As the pro-Qatar operation turned to its next challenges, Belgian investigators who had taken over the probe from the Secret Service were closing in. Now, an intricate web of alleged corruption and political intrigue continues to ensnare the European Parliament a year after the initial revelations of the QatarGate affair. EU lawmakers this month have announced reforms to limit so-called revolving doors where public officials take roles in private sector, especially lobbying. How this is going to end, we don't know, but we sure would keep you up to date on what is happening. But this is not an isolated incident. This is not one country. Many countries do this thing. In the United States, it's called lobbying, and you have to register yourself and you have to represent. And there are many ways in which this money gets transferred to the concerned person for voting in a certain way. Now you understand why, someone like a senator who is trying to bring a legislation or resolution against India for its human rights record of how it treats its minorities, everything is a lie. But clearly somebody has paid some money to this senator. I'm just guessing here. I don't have any proof for that, so don't kill me. But the point I'm trying to make is this is how influence gets peddled. And we don't know how the final outcome is going to be in QatarGate, but certainly whenever you catch people at it, you need to make sure that the law does its job and you throw the book at them for all the offenses committed. Thanks for watching. Please like, share and subscribe to our channel. Don't forget to click on the bell button for notifications. Namaskar.